This short video is going to look at some good, average, and poor answers to question 3 of the MAAF216 exam. It will be assumed that you have read through the question carefully, as well as the solution before viewing this video. Just looking at the required, the first 10 marks is asking you to provide advice as to the improvements to FBC's value chain. So you need to suggest improvements specifically to issues that related to the FBC value chain described in the scenario. You're also asked to provide a brief explanation of the value chain and also to justify your answer. So let's have a quick look at what would be expected. In terms of your brief description of the value chain, you need to be talking about, well, it's made up of primary and support activities, and either state that we're trying to improve efficiency, create value, or create competitive advantage. Just one of those three would have been good. Now, what we're looking for candidates to do is to address specific issues which have been raised in the scenario. So, for example, we know that there's an inadequate volume of high-quality olives. We're looking for solutions that will address this issue of the lack of volume of high-quality olives. So, look at sourcing olives from outside Western Australia, develop strategic relationships with olive growers where we can agree that they'll supply us with all their goods, or appoint a dedicated buyer. So anything in those areas would be addressing the particular issue which has been raised in the question. Then with regard to outbound logistics, there's the issue with regard to high distribution costs. There's lack of visibility for customers as to where the orders are. Consider transporting olive oil in bulk containers and bottle it closer to where it's consumed. That will save a huge amount of transport costs. Perhaps appoint a logistics manager who can focus on making outbound logistics more efficient. Enable retail customers to track the delivery of the orders, or develop a strategic relationship with the distribution organization. Any of these would address the high distribution cost and lack of visibility. Then finally, within marketing and sales, the issues we need to be addressed are that FBC can't meet customer demand, there's no pricing differentiation, and they're losing market share. Undertake a customer profitability analysis in order to identify the most profitable customers, and we could then develop strategic relationships to grow those profitable customers. Identify the best customers, and then implement a pricing strategy that would grow these more profitable customers. Another solution was to increase sales to the end users by marketing olives on the website, as this would attract a higher margin. Here is an example of an explanation of the value chain, listing all the activities. It's not talking about adding value, creating competitive advantage, or anything like that. So this answer would not be enough. It wouldn't be a good enough explanation, as we've really missed out on the concept of improving efficiency, creating value, or developing competitive advantage. Here's a good description of the value chain. Porter's value chain provides a framework for breaking down all key activities within a company engages. The value chain argues the ability to perform particular activities or to manage the linkages between these activities more efficiently than its competitors, i.e. and is a potential source of competitive advantage. Good description is to ship the olive oil via air, and that's certainly not going to address the issue of high shipping costs. So that couldn't be accepted. So remember to have practical, good business advice included in your answers. Here are two good suggestions in order that address the issue of limited supply of quality olives. First one is FBC should look at sourcing olives from interstate or internationally to ensure that they have enough olives. And a second suggestion, a very good one, is that if it requires olives from Western Australia, it may look to enter exclusive purchase agreements with WA growers to ensure minimum quantities supplied. Here is a good suggestion to improve FBC's value chain together with a good justification. So here we go. FBC may be able to add value by using a single distributor rather than several companies. This will likely help to reduce cost to deliver shipments due to the economies of scale and bargaining power. A potential distributor should be able to provide more competitive pricing for a larger volume of deliveries. Good justification. For marketing and sales, pricing for large and small retail customers can be differentiated by carrying out a customer profitability analysis. That would be to identify the most profitable customers. And last point on part A of this particular answer, the writing is clear and there's no words which are not legible. Let's look at part B of question 3. Here we asked to analyze FBC's performance, identify interrelationships in the data, and provide specific feedback on the marketing campaign and the discounting policy. So the examiner is asking us to focus specifically on the marketing campaign and discounting policy. That's giving us guidance on areas we need to cover. Now, before answering the question, we need to become familiar with the information provided in the appendix. If we look at this income statement here, the sales look pretty similar between last year, this year, and budget. Gross margin seems to have improved. We've got a 35% gross margin over there for current year's actual compared to lower gross margins for the budget in prior years. Marketing costs seem significantly higher, whereas admin expenses and seems similar to the last couple of years, and interest expense seems to have come down marginally. If we look at gross margin per month, something's happened to cause March, April, and May's gross margin to go up when compared to January and February, and then gross margin in June has gone down. We've been told in the scenario that there was a marketing campaign towards the end of February to improve website sales where we earn higher margins. So that's a key issue which would have caused that improvement in the gross margin. We were also told in the scenario that in June, large discounts were offered in order to reduce old stock and boost sales of slow-moving lines. And we can see the gross margin there has dropped. And at the same time, we can see that the cash and bank has improved in June, which indicates the success of that discounting campaign. We can see that these four lines seem to be going down. Sales are going down, and suddenly in June, all of those four lines have improved in sales, which must be due to the discounting campaign. And we also can see that the proportion of sales via the website compared to retailers, website sales has jumped up in March, and that would have been due to the marketing campaign. So the key points we're looking for in part B little a is linking the improved gross margin after February to that February marketing campaign, and to provide the reason, i.e. we'll be setting more sales, more goods through the website, which attracts higher margins, hence an increased gross margin. The next point we're looking for is to talk about the discounting policy in June and the linking that to the lower gross margin in June, and also linking that discounting to the improved cash balance. Another point we're looking for is the large increase in marketing costs, and also to justify it in that although the marketing costs have gone up, profits have also improved. Now this answer states that overall sales are higher against budget by 60,000, up 2.4%, which has, I can't read that, perhaps exceeded budget. Now this answer is really just restating the information provided in the question. Let's go on to the next point. Gross margin for January to February held at 30%, while March to May increased to 40%, 41% and 42% respectively, before returning to 30%. That again is just restating the gross margin per month in the question. What the candidate should have said is reasons why these gross margins have changed. And there's enough information to do this in the question itself. So no marks would have been allocated to this particular answer. This answer states that the February marketing campaign seems to have succeeded, a significant rise in the website sales as a percentage of total sales. So they've linked the marketing campaign to the graph showing the change in website versus retail sales. That's good. Good answer. There's a mark there. And further down here, we've got the June discounting was reflected by a drop in gross margin to 30%, which was under the 6-monthly average of 35%. This was expected from the discounting. So again, linking the June discounting to the lower gross margin in June. Good answer, and there'll be a mark for that as well. There's a good answer which links the website sales increasing as a percentage total from March onwards as a result of the marketing campaign. Good mark for that. In little part B, we asked to assess whether the graphs would be more appropriate for the dashboard than the tables. There's a suggested solution. Generally speaking, graphs are more relevant to dashboard reporting than just numbers on tables. And there's a few reasons why. It's easier to view trends. An example is given here from the scenario. Interrelationships can be easier viewed, as well as patterns. And examples have been given for each of those items. This is a weak answer. The graphs show similar results to the tables, being increased website sales proportion and effective discounting, in a more visually pleasing way. Therefore, for the purpose of providing analysis to the marketing director, the graphs produced would be more appropriate. That doesn't really address the question, and it wouldn't be possible to allocate marks to that particular answer. This is an example of a good answer to little part B. The graph produced by Bernadette is more appropriate than the table, as it allows users to quickly see the trend in sales as a result of the discounting policy and marketing campaign. Excellent. So let's talk about the trends. You can see trends better on graphs, and it links it back to the particular scenario. Graphs also highlights the difference in sales levels between the different olive oil lines. Great, linkage again to the scenario, and adds comparison. The graph of sales via the website is also better suited versus the table, as it gives a better visual representation to users to see the change in sales mix to different customers through different channels, and this makes analysis easier and more immediate. Great answer.